Last month, we talked about Jesus having a lovely breakfast on the shore with the disciples, and we did that on Easter Sunday. And we also talked about Easter eggs, and I hope you had a very lovely Easter and lovely holiday with your family. This week, we're going into talking about some extraordinary people in the Bible who did amazing things, and we call them the Bible heroes. Now, they did extraordinary things, but they were everyday people like you and me who talked to God and got God to help them do amazing things for him. So our story today is about Joshua. Now, we talked earlier last year about the Israelites going through the promised land with Moses. When Moses died, Joshua became the leader of the Israelites into the promised land. And the first thing they had to do is cross the river Jordan. And the first story is about that. And then we're leading into talking about defeating a town called Jericho. So I'll tell you that story straight after. Early in the morning, Joshua led the Israelites to the river Jordan, where they set up camp. After 3 days, the officer gave orders. When you see the Ark of the Covenant being carried by the priests, you are to follow it at a distance, Joshua told everyone, to get their lives right with God, for the next day they would see him do amazing things. The next day, Joshua told the priests to lead off, carrying the Ark of the Covenant towards the river Jordan. The river was in flood and dangerous to cross. God told Joshua to tell the priests when they got to the riverbank not to stop, but to go and stand in the river. As soon as the priests' feet entered the water from upstream stopped flowing. It stood up in a large heap some distance away at a town called Adam. The priests stood in the middle of the riverbed on dry ground, while the people crossed into the promised land. Joshua had given orders for 12 men, one from each tribe, to be chosen. He told these men to gather a large stone each from the dry riverbed and carry it to the place where they would set up camp for the night. About 40,000 people armed for battle hurried across the river Jordan, then stood on the far bank and watched. God instructed Joshua, "Command the priests to come out of the water." No sooner had they done so than the water flooded downstream again. At a place called Gilgal, Joshua instructed the 12 men to set up the large stones they had carried from the riverbed as a memorial. When future generations ask you what these stones mean, Joshua announced, tell them that the Lord dried up the river Jordan, just as he dried up the Red Sea, so we could cross over. He did this to show his power, that you would always be in awe of him. The Israelites were now ready to face their first challenge. Ahead of them was the heavily defended walled city of Jericho. Living in the city of Jericho was a lady called Rahab, who had sheltered 2 spies Joshua had sent to the city. They asked her to put a red cord in her window so that when the city was attacked, she would be saved. Joshua was wondering how God would help him capture the great walled city of Jericho. He saw a man with a sword nearby. "Are you a friend or enemy?" Joshua asked. "I am God's messenger," said the angel, "and the commander of God's army." Joshua fell to his knees and said, "Tell me what God wants me to do." Joshua went and told his soldiers, "God will give us the walled city of Jericho, but we must do what he said. And if you find a red cord in a window, save Rahab." Inside the walled city of Jericho, Rahab watched and waited. Joshua had promised to save her and her family when the city was destroyed. She saw the people of Israel walk right around the outside of the wall once every day for 6 days. Then, on the 7th day, they walked right around the wall 7 times that day with the priests blowing trumpets. And the very last time, when they all shouted, the great stone wall of Jericho fell right down. The city was theirs, not by a strong army fighting, but by God's power. Rahab, however, was kept safe and was rescued. So we've got a craft activity for you to do today that is to do with the first story, about the story where they place stones in Gilgal, and that's a dot to dot, and you can colour that in as well. And also next week is Mother's Day. So it would be really lovely for you to create a card for your mum or your carer to give them thanks for looking after you and loving you. So we'll do that craft together as well in Sunday school, or you'll get the pattern for that with your email. Now, the other thing that we've added to the email is a link to a story. It's a cartoon called Superbook, and that tells the story of Jericho in a lovely little cartoon, and it shows you a little bit of a story about how we can apply that story to our own lives as well. So we've got our Mother's Day craft and our dot to dot. Now, I'd love to teach you a new song today as well, and it's called God's Wonderful World. So the link, another link we've given you with the email is also a link to this song in its entirety, so the whole song, but I'm just going to sing a couple of verses and the chorus for you, and then you can listen to the link yourself. And it goes like this. When I look at the trees blowing in the breeze, ooh, I praise you, ooh, I praise you. When I see a bird up high, swooping in the sky, ooh, I praise you, ooh, I praise you. It's a wonderful world for boys and girls, such a wonderful world for boys and girls that